What's up, guys? It's your boy, the essential John L. Crossfire, aka the real main event, aka the rogue soldier, and today you're about to learn firsthand just what it's like to be caught in the crossfire. But above all else, prepare yourself, because in this very moment, today, right now, you are about to be caught in conversation. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 67 of Caught in Conversation. As always, I am your host, the essential John L. Crossfire, and once again, for what is technically the third week in a row, I guess if this is a wrestling podcast, so if it was a wrestling setting in kayfabe for the third week in a row, of course we did just take 2 weeks off because we managed to get a couple of episodes in the can a couple weeks ago, so hooray for that. That's the wrong button. Yay! I'm going to leave that in. We're back home, so I have my soundboard, so the sound is already going to be 10 times better than it was, but I actually managed to salvage those episodes with my crappy earphones. Somewhat, I listened to it back a little bit muffled, but I was pretty happy with that. But as I said, I'm joined by the one and only, it's Mrs. Crossfire.
Hello, everyone.
That was a bit of a rant to introduce you, but I guess that's what happens when we...
I'm just sitting there quiet. I'm like, do I talk? I don't know.
We don't
do
have notes.
Did I wait for you to go?
You'd think, we're back home and we're here and, I've got the whole setup, so you'd think maybe I'd put an effort into this, but I'm having one of those days. I was doing some graphic designing earlier because I was having a good eye day, and then I guess I just strained myself too much, and now my fucking vision is just blurry as all hell, so... In a way, I'm glad I didn't take many notes. I literally wrote the song of the week, the match of the week, and the episode title, which initially, this is just going to take us into the episode, was going to be The Train Ride from Hell Part 2, or maybe The Train Ride from Hell Part 2 Electric Boogaloo, for those that get that reference. But it's just been chaotic. We were trying to record this last week as we record this, but you unfortunately just got busy with work and life, but... On the last episode, what they did here was we were talking about the Black Phone. The episode before that, we were just fucking ranting because we were high on Starbucks. I don't know. Maybe it was
What was that accent?
It was like a New Yorker-ish accent.
Starbucks.
We got to go down to the Starbucks, you hear?
The Starbucks. We're going to go down to the Starbucks.
The Starbucks. But I sounded more Boston. That was Mark Wahlberg. They stole my teddy bear. But we're sitting here. We had a hectic time. Just trying to get back here. Like, as I said, last episode, we were in the hotel room, we were talking about the Black Phone. We were meant to go home the day after that.
Yeah.
And
meant to. Keyword, meant to.
I don't know, now that it's kind of settled a bit, it's not as big of a deal, but there was an accident on the train tracks at about 11:30, midnight. And at 12:30, literally just as I was crawling into bed, I got an email from, the train company saying that, hey, this has happened, and because of the strikes that were currently going on at the same time, they had no way to organise buses or anything, so we basically got an extra day. We got almost a holiday, and shout out to friend of the podcast, Atticus Lane, it's no secret this, kayfabe's dead on the fucking podcast, one of my biggest rivals, but one of my closest mates, IRL, as the kids say, he helped us out because on that same day where we were staying in Sydney, of all days, that was the day that Optus was actually updating the telephone towers. So I was stranded in Sydney. I couldn't do anything unless I had Wi-Fi. So I'm messaging Atticus Lane, and he had to try and relay and translate every bit of information that he could. And thankfully, he was managed to get all the booking info and yada, yada, yada that I sent them to him, and they were able to reschedule for the next day with no additional cost. I did have, unfortunately had to spend more money for another night at the hotel, but...
I hear you say as well, why didn't you do anything, Mrs. Crossfire? I had Optus as well, so we were kind of screwed either way.
Yeah, we were just... even just trying to call him to say thank you, I literally had to leave the hotel and go down the street because I was trying to call him and it kept dropping out.
Shit, and you're in the middle of fucking Sydney, so it's like, fuck, mate, like, Like,
literally, they send me the email and they say, call us between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. I hadn't slept at all that, well, like I had slept, but I slept like shit that whole trip. Mrs. Crossfire was the opposite. She was snoring every night. And then that one night, the roles changed. I just went into grown man mode where I was just like, they've said 7 a.m. I've exercised everything I can. Like I tried to call around a few people like that night, and it just didn't come to be. And I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to sleep. Like I can't physically. I've exhausted everything. I cannot do anything until 7 a.m. So I slept like a baby, as the old expression goes. Mrs. Crossfire, not so much.
Yeah, I deep dived. My ADHD went into overdrive and was like, I must plan everything to a fucking T because it's like, otherwise I'll be shitted. So it's like literally trying to plan everything and it's like, oh man, anxiety. And it's like, I need to plan something. We can't afford to stay here. I need to get home. We're running out of money. I need to work. Mrs. Crossfire was meant to work
the day that we came home, but unfortunately, luckily your boss was more than understanding because we're fucking stranded. What could we do?
She was chill. She was
but
great.
I called the train company. I called them about 8:30. I'm like, I'll wait an hour and a half because I know for a fact everyone and a lot of the people that were on our train were there because of the same reason. There was people in the same hotel as us that got stuck because of the same reason. So I'm like, I'll wait an hour and a half. 8:30 rolls around. I give them a call. To their credit, I was only on hold 10, maybe 15 minutes max, which, considering how busy they were, wasn't actually that long. Literally, as the person answered the phone and said, hello, boom, phone line completely fucking down. And I'm just like, fuck, because as I said, I called them about 8:30, 8:45, so pretty much smack bang on 9 o'clock, they started their work on the telephone tower, and it was just boom, done, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm trying to message people, and even with the free Wi-Fi at the hotel, my messages is just, I'm sitting there and I'm watching it spin, and even by the time I got in contact with Shane, Atticus Lane, it's just, I'm trying to send the message and he's like, okay, he's like, what's the booking number? So I sent the booking number and it's just sitting there and it's spinning and it's spinning and it's spinning and he sends another message. His message, for some reason, messages were coming through, no issue, but going out, just, I guess that's how it works. I guess it is what it is. But his messages are just boom, coming through and I'm just watching mine just spin and I'm like, fuck, like this dude's trying to help me. He can see that I've seen his message. It just says that I'm typing or whatever. It's just not going through.
Yeah.
And then, finally, he got through. He gave them all our info, and because it was all there, they just went, cool, there's that. Rescheduled for the next day. But while we were there, and the thing that made this even funnier was I made a joke to you, and I was like, if anything, this is going to be a funny story for the pod. It'll be the train ride from Hell Part 2, right? And then we decided to go to the movies. And we went to see The Bullet Train. So it became almost like a pun in a way, completely unintentional. But obviously we were going to this episode, as I said, we were going to do it last week when it was a bit more fresh. And we were going to talk about the trip, and we might get into the actual trip if you want. Who knows where this is going to go.
Yeah.
But we were going to almost do what we did with last week's episode with the Black Phone, where we were going to kind of do something different and just break it down. It doesn't exclusively have to be just professional wrestling. It's all film, music, whatever. It's just pop culture in general. It's just wrestling's more of the central focus. But we went to see Bullet Train, and I can't even sit here and break the whole thing down because it's not as fresh, but I 100%, I'd go watch it again. I still think I felt like the Black Phone was better for me, but at the same time, they're two completely different genres, so I don't feel like you could compare them. But action comedy, directed by the director of Deadpool 2, and from the the first, 4 or 5 minutes, that is very much on display. The fourth wall breaks, the cheesy comedy.
And you know what I love about it is that I talked you into it. Because you were literally like, I don't want to go see that. Let's just go see Elvis. I'm like, no, I want to see that. And then you kind of watch the trailer and you're like, this is kind of funny.
I'll admit, right, and I might get heat for this. It is what it is. I'm not a fan of Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt is meant to be like this fucking god in Hollywood. Even after all these years, he's still a sex symbol. Good for him, but I've never been a fan of his acting. It's a wrestling podcast. I'll hearken I almost said Brad Paisley. What the fuck am I thinking? This is country music. No, I will hearken Brad Pitt to John Moxley.
Yeah.
Someone whose promos I absolutely love. He has an amazing work ethic. Everything he does, I know it's going to be good to an extent, but I'm not going to sit there and hooray and fucking tits out, spring break, whatever. Like, there's just something about Brad Pitt that just, you know that like the episode of Family Guy where that's turned into a meme where Peter's like, you know what really grinds my gears? Brad Pitt grinds my gears, and I cannot for the life of me. You have a gripe
for him, but you don't know what it is.
The dude has done nothing wrong. Like I have got no vendetta against him. I'm not jealous of him. Like he's worked hard. He's earned everything he's got. But I just there's nothing that really makes me go yay.
Yeah, I can't think who really does that for me. So like, I don't know. I used to be.
I think everyone has that when it comes to like celebrities and musicians and yada yada yada.
I used to kind of be like that with Will Smith. Until I started watching Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
I like him in Fresh Prince.
Mrs. Crossfire has never seen the OG Fresh Prince series all the way through. We are now very close to the end of the final season. And literally we did all of that just because I wanted to watch the remake, but Mrs. Crossfire hadn't seen the new one, or the old one rather. So here we are. But yeah, there's something about Brad Pitt that it's grinded my gears. And I can't work out what it is, but I watched the trailer and straight away, even from the trailer, I was in stitches from the trailer. And then even you were like, oh no, is this going to be one of those things? Like, and it's been around for ages, but even the last couple of years specifically, there has been so many comedies or action comedies or even just movies in general where everything that's in the trailer, it's like all the good bits and you enjoy the trailer and then you watch the movie and you're like, this is shit.
Yeah. The reason I wanted to go see it is I actually like Aaron Taylor Johnson. I used to watch him in like chick flicks and stuff when I was younger and was like, yeah, he's great. He's a good actor. So I was like, I want to watch that because I reckon if they've got a bit of comedy in there, he's going to be good for it.
Yes.
And like even when he was, what's his name? He was Wanda's freaking brother, and I can't think of it.
Quicksilver.
Yeah, Quicksilver.
It turned out it was like the Quicksilver. It was Quicksilver from the X-Men series in the new version of the MCU, but it actually wasn't him. It was someone else. But spoiler alert if you haven't seen WandaVision, my bad. But it's been out for like a year or so now. Yeah. But yeah, it's the same, dude. I knew what you meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I watched the trailer and I was in fucking stitches. Yeah. And we went out on a nice little lunch date. We had Greek. I can't even remember what.
Oh, shit. What was the place called?
The Euros? Is that what they're called? The wraps?
Euros.
Yeah, we had those at.
Never had one.
It's called Zeus Street Kebab.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Zeus, not kebab.
Zeus Street.
Zeus Street.
Greek.
Wait. Did they have kebab? No, I don't know. There was a kebab place near it. I'm getting confused.
Yeah, Zeus Street.
But it was called Zeus Street something. Zeus Street Kebab. I have kebabs on the mind because I had one for lunch yesterday or the day before. My bad. But it was called Zeus Street something. You'll Google it. If you Google it, like, you'll find it anyway. And all of, like, their menu, like, the menu's named after, like, all the Greek gods and stuff, which popped me. But beautiful food. And I literally looked at the time and I was going through Hoyts and seeing what time everything was on. And as Mrs. Crossfire alluded to just before, I really, really wanted to see Elvis. And I looked at the time and it's like, I could have just gone, hey, let's go see Elvis. But I was like, no, just wait here. I'll be back. I went and bought a ticket for Bullet Train. She's like, what did you do? And I'm like, well, it's fine. Let's just kill an hour. We're going on a date. And she had no idea, like, whether we were going to the movies or, like, the arcade that was near it or what we were doing.
Yeah, I assumed maybe the movies because we talked about it. But yeah.
And then we got to the movies and, like, you still had no idea, like, you bought the popcorn drinks and you're like, what the fuck are we watching? And then you got to the cinema and it was, like, now showing and you're like, oh, because I'm cute like that. I just want to put myself over. But I surprised Mrs. Crossfire. We took her to the one that she wanted to see. And
because I was a good sport and was like, I went and seen Black Phone, so I want to see what I want to see, you know?
But yeah, I watched the trailer while Mrs. Crossfire was ordering lunch. She literally came back just as I was finishing watching it. And she's like, oh, what were you watching? And I was like, oh, just watching TikToks. Wink, wink. Fucking in stitches from the trailer. Went to see it. And like, as I said, the first 4 minutes, you can tell that it's that director from, I can't think of his name, I feel terrible. You can tell that it's the Deadpool 2 director because it's like, here's your action and then here's your comedy and here's a little cheeky fourth wall break that was so subtle that you have to take a second to realise that it was.
What were the dudes' names? Lemon and Tangerine?
Lemon and Tangerine.
That was the fucking best.
And they were twins, even though they were different looking.
I think they were adopted or something.
Yeah, they grew up in the flashbacks.
Spoilers.
Like I'm not going to go like full on into this like we did Black Phone because I can't remember unless I really, really think just because ADHD and you're like, well, it was so good, how come you can't remember? But my brain's fried, all right?
Yeah.
my brain's fucking fried.
Cooked too.
But like they grew up together and they never really said like whether they were adopted or not, but that's what's...
They kind of did.
The whole thing is basically one's white, one's black, and it's real like, people probably get offended by it in this day and age, I don't know. But whatever. One's white, one's black, and everyone's like, how are you related? There's no way you're twins. Ha ha, funny. Whatever. It's, as I said, it's the Deadpool 2 director, so there's a lot of... It's fucking stupid, but the way it's delivered makes it work. But then you've got Bad Bunny comes in, has pretty much little to no dialogue, but fucking slays it. And I can see now why he's been picked up for that Marvel show. And I've said it many, many times on the pod, and I've talked your ear off it every time Bad Bunny comes up. I'm like, I cannot wait for him to play that Spider-Man villain. And everyone's getting so mad because it's like a villain that's in like literally 6 or 7 comics. But I'm like, no, this here showed that the dude can act. And on top of that, this is how he trains for in-ring.
But remember when he first come in and we're like, oh, fuck, like another celebrity that they've just gotten in and they're going to be shit. He fucking trained and was a fucking good match.
See, I don't know if it's just like one of those Mandela effects or placebo effects or whatever, but when Bad Bunny come in, they're like, he's done this, he's done that, whatever. I had no idea who the fuck this dude was. And I was just like, look, I don't keep up with mainstream thing as it is. I live in my wrestling bubble and whatever else. Mrs. Crossfire is very much the same. Like, we don't... It's not because we're like super hipsters and we don't like that.
Yeah,
no, I genuinely am such a fucking oblivious person to the outside world because that's just the way I like it. Because the world is a fucking terrifying place. But Bad Bunny comes in, steals the show, instantly makes me a fan, and ever since then, this is where I don't know if it's a Mandela effect, placebo effect. I don't know if it's that or not. That dude is fucking everywhere now.
Yeah.
He's everywhere. He's won this award and he won that award, and I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Where did he come from? And everyone's like, oh, well, he had this, and this, and this. And I'm like,
yeah, I didn't realize how crazy, like, it was good. And he's just, like, really good actor. That's why I was like, if he got into, like, actually got a wrestling career, I'm going to be good because he's got everything.
There was one scene where one of the characters died, right? And this isn't spoilers because that's not really like a super big plot point, but this is how Bad Bunny comes into the movie. Is basically his wife or fiance or whatever like gets poisoned, and that's how like he comes in. That's how he factors into the story. And even the scene where he basically, the way they filmed it was he screams out no, like the super cheesy like movie, very telenovela as you said to me.
Yeah, that's what they were doing, telenovela.
But they did it where you couldn't hear his audio in that scene. It was like a silent scream because it was like you could hear like the heartbeat and the adrenaline and everything from his perspective, and it was kind of drowning out everything. But even just the way that he threw his head back and he screamed without even having, like he probably did it on set. He probably did scream and they probably muted it. But everything combined was just so brilliantly done that I was convinced that dude, and I literally said that to you while we were watching the movie. I went over and I was like, he literally had me convinced that his heart was genuinely broken, like IRL. Like it was really so convincing. I think the main thing was the facial expressions and the body language. I think as a whole, I was like, if this dude decides to become a wrestler full time, like, he's gonna be money, like fucking oath.
Yeah,
it's just
fucking oath.
Everything. And then Joey King, of course, from the Kissing Booth. Yeah. Fuck the Kissing Booth 3. That shouldn't have been a thing. I want my fucking 2 hours back. Anyway, you know what? I said this to Mrs. Crossfire and I said on the podcast, as bad as it was, at least we watched it together. No.
Yeah, I guess.
It's fucking bad.
Didn't like
the second one was like decent-ish, and I was like, all right, let's have a third one. And to do yourself a favor, if you're like a fan of chick flicks and these cute, cheesy romance movies. That one, it's not it.
Not it, fam.
Scroll across and click on the next one, even if you don't know what it is. If you've never heard of it, it's probably still going to be a better movie. But her accent in that movie, so basically, I don't want to spoil it too much because there's like a huge reveal, but she has a British accent throughout the movie when it turns out she's not actually British, but her accent is so fucking convincing. Like, it didn't even seem fake, and I didn't hear it falter once.
No.
Like, I'm sure if I watched it again and I was probably
really
looking specifically,
there's
probably like a few little inflections here and there. But again, I said to you while we were watching it, I'm like, her accent was
it was
really
good.
well done.
She did really good. Yeah, she's definitely one to watch, I reckon.
There was a cheeky cameo in there that I won't say. I won't say who. They didn't have any dialogue. It was just their face. But both me and Mrs. Crossfire literally went like aloud while watching it.
Yeah.
Obviously, if people watch the movie, they're probably going to like figure it out before it even happens. But
it's the type of movie where make sure you've gone to the toilet before. Because I was raging that this person walked out to go to the toilet. I'm like, you're going to miss so much, mate. Like, there were so many.
It was the same thing that happened with the black phone, though. Like, literally, you disappeared for 5 minutes, and somehow in 5 minutes, everything just flips on its fucking head.
They're both movies where you've got to be super immersed into them because the tiniest little things add up later. Like, it just all adds together really nicely and meshes really well.
And for the most part, the whole movie basically, the only time they're not on the train for the most part is when it's in like flashbacks and stuff.
Yeah.
It's majority of the time they're on the train for what the movie went for, what, just on 2 hours or was it 2.5 hours? It was just on 2 hours. I could be wrong, maybe just over 2 hours, but for a solid hour and a half, they're literally just on the train. And I don't know about you guys, like, Speed, right? Fantastic movie. If he slows the bus down, it'll blow up. How many times can you do that in the movie before it gets old, right? And literally, that's all I was thinking of in my head. Because when I was younger, I probably watched it way younger than I probably should have. But Speed was one of my dad's favorite movies. And I don't know how many fucking times I watched that movie. And that was another factor. I'm like, cool. It's got Brad Pitt in it. I'm kind of mad on him. And they're on a fucking train for like the whole movie. I'm like, how can they make that?
Yeah. Oh.
How can they make that convincing? And then it worked. Somehow made it better. Like,
it was so
if they had have
action-packed.
exited the train,
it
wouldn't have had the impact that it had.
And you know what I felt too? I felt like it was very Die Hard-ish because it's like they were stuck in a place, like how they were stuck in that building.
Yes.
They were stuck in this train. And, like, spoiler alert, they're pretty much all hitmen. So, like, shit hit the fan. They're all, like, hitmen pretty much. So it was like, it was just all shit hit the fan. It was great.
Yeah, it's like, without going into too much detail, it's revealed that probably like half of the people that are on the train are all after the one thing for like whatever their own respective reason is.
They all had different backstories and respective reasons,
and that's
so they all intertwined. Oh,
and I think that's why it works in a way as well, because they establish the people before they go in, and that's when the flashbacks of this and that, and that's where they're not in the train because it's showing.
Yeah, well,
who
like
this person
when
is,
Bad
blah, blah, blah.
Bunny came into it, I was like, where the fuck does he tie into this? He's just this guy in a fucking suit.
And the weird thing is, literally all of
them
them in the end, somehow, even in the tiniest bit, every story intertwines in some aspect.
Yeah.
And obviously some are bigger than others, and that's what makes the bigger, plot twists and the moments.
Yeah.
But just fantastic. And Brad Pitt's acting in this, maybe this is why I enjoyed it, but it was very Johnny Depp-esque.
Yeah.
And I know
even the way his hair and style
I know that's a very
movie.
controversial thing at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into that. I don't know who's right and wrong. None of us were there, whatever. But his inflections and just the style was just very Johnny Depp-esque, in my opinion.
See, like, there's a lot of wrestlers that I don't like, but I like that character. That's the same with Johnny Depp.
There's a movie with Johnny Depp and I think it's Angelina Jolie, The Tourist.
I'm not sure.
Anyway, he plays like I don't know if he's a secret agent or a crook or... It's been that long since I've seen it.
I have to watch it.
Been that long since I've seen it, but I watched it with my mom. And like there's a couple of scenes where they're on a train or a bus or something for that, right? Because they're tourists. Duh, that's how you travel. But like even like thinking of it in my head now, maybe that's why I'm making that like correlation.
Yeah.
But Johnny has like slightly highlighted blonde hair in that as well, so maybe that's what gives me the vibes. But yeah, it was very much just the inflections, I think.
Yeah, I think it's the inflections. Some of the acting style was very similar, like, as well as the way he was dressed as well.
Brad Pitt, for the most part, and maybe this is why I don't like him, because it seems to be like the go-to in Hollywood, that you could literally throw a stone and you hit the same thing. He plays like the pretty boy and the this to that in all the movies and gets the girl at the end, and like
he's
how many Hollywood... Yeah, right? Like, and I'm hypocritical in that sense because everyone thinks that The Rock can't act when we know he can. It's just that he gets typecasted so fucking well that...
Same as Kevin Hart.
Like, Jason Statham had a movie that was meant to be coming out this year that we only just discovered, and we're like, ooh, how can we watch this? And found out that it was meant to be released in March. It was cancelled in February, and I can't think of the name of it. Like, we literally, like, 2 days ago watched the trailer to it, and it looks so good, and I don't know if it's ever going to get released, and that makes me sad. But here's another one. He's typecast really well. There's been a couple of ones, like the Melissa McCarthy one, where he basically plays a parody of himself, and I love it, but it's just, you know, bang, bang, whatever. Like Liam Neeson, like how many Taken movies have they made now, and how many other movies has he been in that might as well have been Taken? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's nothing against Brad Pitt. I think that it's
his typecast.
Just doesn't do anything for me, but his character work in this shows that he is a fantastic actor, and I guess we all knew that, but it's just one of the better, and maybe I'm biased again because it's action comedy and that's more my forte, but fantastic fucking film.
Yeah, because I thought when you look at it, it's a wonder he got actually casted for that, because I felt like that would have been more of a Tom Cruise kind of type casting. So it was like, it was good and refreshing at the same time seeing Brad actually play that role, because it's like in the end he didn't end up with a chick, did he? Because the chick he walks off with is just the Sandra Bullock's character.
So the lady that, like...
She's just the chick that was helping
spoiler alert, but the lady that, you know, kind of saved him. But at the end of the day, it's a movie most of the time. 99.99% of the time, the good guy's going to prevail. Babyface brother. Yeah, that's literally just like his, like... What he called her... He called her his handler. But it's basically like, you know, like the guy in the chair, or, you know, the guy on the phone or whatever kind of situation, basically, like... Dare I say sidekick, but it's one of the faces where realistically she's probably, although he's doing all the stuff, without her he'd be fucked.
Yeah, he's talking her through the mission as such. Yeah.
But I should probably move on to the song and the match of the week, because I realised that I didn't actually rally them off just before.
Oh yeah, like you usually
we're literally 27 minutes in, but that's fine. I feel like we ranted. We can go back to it if you want, but the song of the week is Running Away, or Run Away From Myself by Citizen Soldier. I'm only 2 songs behind, for now, until they release more. And this is one of their, again, much like the previous couple of episodes, I think it was, no, not last week, but the week before, because last week was God's Country. Well, last week in terms of the actual episodes anyway, but whatever. I'm just thinking on the spot. It's almost a trigger warning. It's not as bad, but it's just, you know, it feels, whatever, fight the good fight, not weak to speak, etc., etc. It's the same message that their last couple of albums have had, and I'm loving it, and it hits me in all the feels because I'm just a big softie. But that song is Run Away From Myself by Citizen Soldier. And the match of the week this week, I was almost going to go through and pick a CM Punk match due to things that we're about to talk about, and I'm like, yeah, maybe not. And then I was going to be like a Triple H match, and I'm like, no, because I'm still working on that episode, which is going to drop in 3 episodes time. If I can finish it, I should be able to finish it. Hopefully, I want to drop it for episode 70, but
finish it.
But anyway, I settled on Sabu versus Taz at ECW Barely Legal 1997. This is an absolute classic in a lot of different ways. There's probably a handful of different ways in the history of ECW, and I'm not actually going to spoil them this time around. Usually I talk about like a few hit points from the matches just to kind of entice those of you that haven't watched it. But if you haven't watched it, I don't want to spoil any of this, because this is from ECW's first official pay-per-view ever, which is crazy to think because they'd been around for quite a few years at that point, but they'd just done a handful of super shows here and there, all within the realm of, their normal kind of local television broadcast. But this was the first time they weren't on pay-per-view, and the whole show, top to bottom, is fantastic. I actually got it on DVD way back in the day when they had ECW One Night Stand 06. They released it as like a bonus disc, as a re-release, like all those years later, and they didn't actually censor anything out of it, which was both surprising and also very refreshing for me, who was like 12 years old at the time. But it's just a fantastic match. As I said, one of the first, their first pay-per-view, and it seemed very fitting because WWE have their Extreme Rules pay-per-view or premium live event coming up in the next couple of weeks. That is the next pay-per-view / PLE for them. Unfortunately, Mrs. Crossfire will be at work when it airs, and luckily they're back in the US though, so it'll be on at a decent time. It starts, I think, 10 a.m. Australian time or 11 a.m. I can't remember. I'll have to double check that because I'm not sure when their daylight savings starts / ends. But anyway, the match of the week this week is Sabu versus Taz from that ECW Barely Legal 1997 pay-per-view. I kind of trailed off there, my bad. Is what it is. I'm just going to leave it. This is Crossfire. We were sitting here and we were kind of kicking ourselves and fuck, we were going to do the episode and we're going to break down the whole movie and yada, yada, yada. But in the last few days, and I didn't know if I was going to bring it up or not, I was planning on kind of glossing over it, but even you said, we've got to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
AEW All Out. Unfortunately, we didn't have the money there to buy the pay-per-view, and I was going to buy it when I got paid to order the replay, and from looking at the results, probably not going to go back and buy it. The highlights were good, but not their strongest pay-per-view that they've had. Not their weakest either, but it was just kind of there, and we consume a fuckload of wrestling in this household.
We barely go a day without wrestling, to be
It's
honest.
not and I've said on this podcast, I praise the good and the bad of WWE, AEW, Impact, anything in between that I can get my hands on, but not the strongest pay-per-view, but afterwards, CM Punk sits down. The very first question he gets asked is from a reporter who is an acquaintance of Colt Cabana, even goes on record and says that he doesn't really like Colt Cabana, so that in itself, if it is a shoot, which we both wholeheartedly believe it is, because if it's a work, they're fucking stupid because they've completely overshadowed MJF's return.
Yeah.
Whatever, that's one of the smaller things is MJF's return. They've just done everything and flipped it on its head. But this dude sits down and CM Punk just goes on this massive rant about he hates Colt Cabana and he shares an account with his mum. And first of all, who gives a fuck?
Yeah, who gives a fuck?
At the end of the day, and I don't know if this is going to come across as offensive or anything, but Colt Cabana is a Jewish man. We all know what Jewish men are like with their family and their money and yada yada yada.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing.
He's supporting his mum, and that makes him a douche or a pussy or what?
Yeah, I don't understand.
CM Punk was bragging about the fact that he sued him, and then he's oh whoops, he shares an account with his mum. I don't get it. And then he went on this massive rant about the EVPs and Hangman Page, and where do you stand? Because I think a lot of people are going, oh, you're an idiot, it's a work, this is how he turns heel, and yada, yada, yada. And he was leaning into a heel turn for weeks upon weeks going into this, which I for one, I think that's great. Heel CM Punk is easily the best CM Punk, but where do you...
I feel like it's a shoot. I don't feel like it's a work. I think it's stupid. Because I was I get, it would be kind of smart in the way...
Because you're working the internet fans by using insider terms.
As well as he's doing it in his own town. That's so disrespectful. He's doing it in his own town, and everyone loves him there, and I get it as a work. But like you said, that's foreshadowing MJF's return. What is the fucking point?
Yeah, MJF...
that's just stupid.
And a lot of people are complaining about the way it was done. I thought it was great. Basically... Casino Battle Royal, it's like a gauntlet match-ish, but it's a ladder match, right? Everyone comes in at certain intervals. You had Stokely Hathaway's group come in and fuck shit up. There was a dude in a mask. Stokely helps him win, and everyone's like, who's in the mask, right? And then, like, a lot of people, I looked at the photo straight away and I was like, from the build, I think it's MJF. I feel like they should have had like a double suit where they pulled a switcheroo, where they had someone in the suit earlier on and then like MJF gets revealed later on. Yeah. But whatever. MJF's revealed later on at the end of the show after CM Punk has beat Moxley and becomes the new champion. So over 2 title reigns, I finally worked out why they say interim. Because Jon Moxley is it's not the official, he's the interim, but it is an official title reign. He's the interim champion because CM Punk's injured. So because CM Punk is injured and Moxley's the interim, you don't count the amount of days that Punk's out. So over 2 title reigns, CM Punk has been champion for 5 days.
That's pretty funny.
Which probably gets in his panties even more. But that's just the littlest thing, right? You have CM Punk beat Moxley, becomes the new and now 2-time, even though Moxley beat him in 3 minutes the week before. And people can shit on WWE's pay-per-view and build and stuff, but AEW have 4 pay-per-views a year. They had 5. Yeah. We're going to have 5 this year with the New Japan one, because I think Full Gear will be the 5th, yeah?
Yeah.
Quick math.
Quick math.
You don't have pay-per-views as often, but you're like, oh, let's not have a main event until the week before.
Yeah.
Bravo, Tony Khan. And then anyway, you have the show, and it kind of, it's whatever, right? Jericho and Danielson, from what we saw in the highlights, fantastic fucking match. I mean, I don't think anyone expects differently, right? CM Punk and Moxley still had a pretty solid match. It is what it is. And again, the big thing was, for me, I think out of all of it, was the Casino Battle Royal, though. And eventually it's revealed it's MJF. But then it's like, okay, it's time for the media scrum. What's your opinion on, what's going on with Scott Colton, blah, 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 blah. And then CM Punk proceeded to go on that rant. Yeah.
And he kept going back to he didn't like Cole.
And that's what makes me think. Everyone's like, oh, no, because, see, Colt's from Chicago too, so he's just trying to get heat, and that guy that asked him the question is a plant, and da-da-da-da-da, and I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe I can see it. But then 3 or 4 times throughout that 25-ish minutes that Punk's answered a question, he'd answer a question and somehow flip it back to how much he fucking hates Colt Cabana.
It's like that.
That is petty as fuck. That is, and then
it reminds me of like those memes where it's like nobody asked.
Like, and I might sound hypocritical because I have issues with a certain promotion, but I've never named them by name, and every time they come up, like with Hellfire / Big James, we couldn't not mention them, but I said, look, I'm not going to mention their name, but here's this, and this, and then I moved on. But he kept going back and back and back, and oh, that reminds me of Colt Cabana, and
yeah.
Dude!
And I mean, if he was turning heel, he has so much behind him that he could, like, literally talk about. Like, when you look at him, it's like he's really good at promos and stuff, usually. So doing a press conference, why does he have to keep going back to something like that? He's usually so creative. There's so many creative ways he could do it, rather than going back to just shitting all over fucking
this is
Cole.
where I don't
understand.
Right? CM Punk, fantastic promo. However, he's never been like the greatest actor, dare I say, right? There's always got to be some sort of truth into what he's saying. That is why the whole Triple H versus CM Punk thing, which we did talk about on what is now 2 episodes now, works so well because in Punk's mind, that's how he was viewing things. And it's kind of funny now because once again, as we said, we're not going to harp on it, everything Triple H said back then, in hindsight, Triple H, I think, was the babyface in that situation.
Yeah.
And had Tommy Dreamers talked about it on his radio show, Bubba Ray, and it kind of ties in with CM Punk. But MJF cut a promo this week where it was like, maybe I should go to where real wrestlers are and go with my best friend Cody Rhodes, and named him by name and da-da-da-da. And then he's like, maybe I could play the game, and like just all these little innuendos to WWE. And as I said, he literally name dropped Cody by name. And Tommy Dreamer's like, why would you do that? Because MJF, and this is what makes me think it's definitely a shoot, because MJF in that moment, and Jericho said it in his portion of the media scrum, he's like, look, whatever, like I'm going to go behind school, but it's a press conference, the show's over, we know what this is, off camera, Max is a good kid, this, and like Jericho, who has no involvement, seemingly, I'm going to say he doesn't, in any of the situation, he's meant to be a locker room leader, putting over MJF and saying, no, he's a babyface now, right? And he got cheered over CM Punk in Chicago when that mask came off. Okay, the place was like, they popped when Punk won because at the end of the day, he's still their dude. It's his hometown.
Yeah.
Sympathy for the Devil playing, I don't know, I'm assuming Mrs. Crossfire knows that song. It's Rolling Stones, I think. Could be wrong. Someone's going to say it's by this person, but whatever. Some classic rock band. I'm almost.
I didn't hear it.
Almost
so
positive it's the Rolling Stones. Whatever. I'm not going to edit it out. But anyway, it's like, okay, there's this really cool video package where they're showing, and this is what they did in the first CM Punk MJF feud that I did enjoy, where MJF was basically repeating everything he said back verbatim, but in a bitching way.
Yeah.
They had CM Punk on the screen, and they literally just played a CM Punk promo where it's him saying blah, 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 and you're like, what the fuck's going on? Like, they're just showing a Ring of Honor Punk promo. Like, maybe it's going to go into, like, a celebration video or something, right? Because it's in Chicago. And then it's like, blah, 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 and the ending line is, I am the devil. And it's like, static. The mask from earlier shows up. It comes off. You see the back of someone's head, but they happen to be wearing a certain scarf. The pop just from the scarf, right?
What would have been funny as a bit of like a swerve, as you will.
Someone else is wearing
if it was fucking like Wardlow, but you'd know because of how big he is, but it would have been fucking hilarious.
A little callback, and then, expecting MJF? Yeah, no, I fucked him off. That would turn Wardlow instantly heel, though.
I fucked him off and stole his scarf, bitches.
But yeah, like, the mask comes off, you see the scarf. Holy shit, MJF turns around, and he finishes the, I am the devil himself, right?
Yeah.
Which, fucking perfect, simple, to the point. Crowd goes nuts.
So...
Is that why CM Punk went off?
Maybe.
Because, like, even Jericho himself said that, like, Max basically was going to be... And after his pipe bomb before he left MJF, he was going to be a tweener at best. And then now he's come out and turned heel with cheap heat and wiped his ass with the Buffalo fucking sporting jumper. And I don't know. I feel like that was a pivot because the way it was done seemed really awkward. But
if it was a work too, why didn't he just work the fuck out of everyone and go on about MJF?
Well, you'd imagine MJF won the Casino Battle Royal, which means that it's not a Money in the Bank situation. He can't just cash in anytime, anywhere. He has to announce it. But you'd assume that being that MJF has that, the natural thing is MJF versus Punk, this time with the title on the line. And
as well as creatively.
Creatively.
Yeah, creatively. Fuck, words. What are they? Anyway, so, like... You just think of it like this is how I reckon it would go down, right? He does work against like MJF, like fuck you Chicago, fuck my hometown, like it's cheap heat, but fuck you guys. You were cheering him louder than you're cheering me. I'm your boy, like that kind of vibe. Well,
he was playing that perfectly as a babyface when they go to MJF's hometown, which is funny because they still boo MJF even there, but they were still booing Punk as well. Yeah. Like, it was like they were booing MJF, but they were booing Punk louder than they were booing MJF by default because he was still the hometown boy, and it was more that they were playing along more than anything. Yeah. Like, MJF's mums bring signs to the show about how much she hates MJF, which is great because, you know, if you get your mum and dad in on it and they know the business, that's great. But, like, there's a couple of different towns where Punk isn't, like, overly favoured, right? Like, New York, Long Island is specifically, like, I think that's where MJF's from, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. I think he's from, like, Long Island.
Yeah, I'm positive. Anyway, if I'm not, I'm wrong. But Long Island specifically, for whatever reason, there's this... I think is there, like, a rivalry between Chicago and New York? Because I know New York has the Yankees. I know New York and Boston do in baseball.
I know they fight about pizza.
I'm gonna say it. That's what it is. They argue over who has the best pizza. But no, Long Island, CM Punk genuinely. There's just something about that territory. Dare I say, Punk gets booed every time, and the last few times we were there, he lent into it. He was full blown heel, specifically just for that city, and then the next week he was a babyface. But he comes out, and this is what pisses me off, is because there was a specific line that he used that would have been a beautiful way to put it into a storyline. Dare I say a work shoot. He came back last year. There's so much young talent back there. Can't wait to work with you all. And then someone did a side-by-side of, I'm sick of working with these fucking kids who think they fucking know everything. And I believe that was the exact quote. And he's like, I'm sick of working with these pricks. If the boss wants me to work with pricks, I'll work with pricks. Oh, and that, by the way, speaking of pricks, that reminds me of how much fucking, like...
I hate banana.
And when Jericho comes out, I don't know, actually, was it when it was coming out, when it was leaving? I think it was when it was coming out. He hugs Tony, and you literally see him, and it wasn't from the AEW camera either. Like, so you'd think if it was a work, it'd be from their camera. It was from one of the reporters' camera angles on the opposite side of the table. I just put my hand in front of the microphone because I'm getting really animated, so if that went muffled for a second, my bad. But he literally whispers, and you literally see and semi-hear him whisper in Tony's ears, some shit just went down. The shit that went down was, after Punk went on this rant, apparently there's been some sort of fucking melee and punches were thrown, and man, I could make a joke about CM Punk's UFC career and how if he's throwing punches, no one's really in harm's way, but...
Who was it that challenged him? Someone challenged him for a UFC fight.
Bobby Fish, whose contract has just expired. It was rumoured that it was meant to expire next month in October, according to all the dirt sheets and that he's already done. He challenged CM Punk to a legitimate MMA fight. And just this morning, and I do have a couple of international listeners, so I apologise for using this word. It's an Australian treasure. Just this morning, Bobby Fish went in depth about why he has issues with CM Punk. Apparently, when they had a match a couple of months ago, CM Punk did something that was on his end, mind you, and then took it out on Bobby Fish, which reminds me of a match I had where a dude broke his own finger and somehow that was my fault. But anyway, he went on record and he's like, CM Punk is a cunt. That was a direct quote
I was at work,
from Bobby
so I didn't
Fish.
know about this. That's great.
Now, it was bad enough that, was it a couple of days ago? Was it a week ago? I think it was a couple of days ago, because I think it was like the day after like everything come out, wasn't it? Where he challenged him, or was it the day before?
I think it was the day after.
The day after does make sense, but I can't remember. There's been lots, but yeah, Bobby Fish has challenged challenged CM Punk to a legitimate MMA fight. CM Punk has yet to respond and probably won't. But it makes me so sad because like for so long, right? Like as I said, I'm not the biggest fan of Mox, Ambrose, whatever. I appreciate his work rate. When he became WWE champion, everyone was really, really panning for him. The moment he became WWE champion, they did what the internet does. They flipped, right?
They flipped.
And this dude in the Cult of
sick of him.
This dude in the Cult of Kayfabe page on Facebook, everyone knows that page. It's arguably the biggest wrestling page on Facebook, or group at least. And he's like, oh, this is typical internet. He was your darling a year ago. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not for shit that he's done in the ring. It's him as a person. Like, I genuinely want to slap CM Punk, and that fucking hurts.
It's not even just the punchable face. It's just he's a cunt.
I look at I look at all the stuff that he did in Ring of Honor. I have watched hours upon hours upon hours of that. I have so much CM Punk merch. Yeah. I've got that CM Punk POC vial, and at this point, I'm fucking considering selling it because that's how pissed off I am at him right now. So I guess if it is a work, he's done his job, but I just...
And you have that glorious, awesome shirt, though. It was a cool shirt.
Yeah, Atticus gave it to me for a fucking wedding present, and then this motherfucker just... I don't get it, right? Like...
For me, as well, my inner detective
I just want to understand why.
My inner detective skills feel like he's being a dick backstage, and it's been happening for a while. So I feel like this is purely a fucking shoot, not a work. And you know why? Because you were showing that video of Mox cutting a promo on CM Punk freaking like what?
So, sorry to cut you off there, Mr. Crossfire. Before? This whole tirade, rant, shoot, work, shoot, whatever your opinion is, I don't give a fuck, this is my platform, I think it's a shoot. 80% shoot, 20% work, right?
Yeah.
Because when he was talking about MJF, he did dial it in a little bit, but still really overshadowed it, which, if they were smart, they could use that to piss MJ off more and add fuel to the fire for him to get a bigger push. That's smart. I think if they don't make money off this, it's fucking stupid because it's there. You might as well capitalize on it. But this all stems from when it all stems from when Hangman and CM Punk first started feuding before CM Punk took the title off him, right? Yeah. Hangman cut that promo, which was one of Hangman's best promos, because Hangman, as much as I love him, his promos are definitely not his strong suit, right? Yeah. And he talked about how he wanted to save AEW from CM Punk. And I remember, because we were still watching at that time, we were kind of zoning in and out of the weeklies, but we watched that week's episode, and he was talking about how he was going to save AEW from CM Punk and this and that. And you and I sat there, and so did Gaz, my brother-in-law, your brother as well. We were like, oh, damn. Because there was that kind of realism to it. Well, to like, as excited as we were to see him, it's the same thing that he got the shits about The Rock doing. Well, why shouldn't I be in the main event? The Rock comes back, blah, blah, blah. CM Punk, although he wasn't a part-timer, he was there on AEW every week. They don't have the same schedule as WWE, so it's not as, commendable, but it is what it is. That's a contractual thing and production thing. AEW don't do live events. They do specifically TV shows, whatever. That's neither here nor there. I'm a fan of both products, but he comes in essentially as a part-timer, or not a part-timer, but in that, like, he's looked at in that role, like in that vein where he's a legend, right? Like, say that it's WWE bringing in Goldberg or whatever. Like, he's a special attraction to a point, right? Yeah. He has that match with Darby, which was, he was a little bit rusty in the first opening minutes, but still ended up being one of CM Punk's best matches ever. And after 7 years away from the business, it was like, holy fuck. Yeah, and like, it's not even it's not even like a Mandela effect kind of thing. Like, you go back and watch that match, the timing, the first couple of minutes, he's a bit rocky, but he takes a couple of bumps, dishes out a couple of his old, trademark CM Punk offense, and it's like, boom, it's like a gear switches, right? And it's like, okay, he's in this, boom, 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 goes on, has a couple of good matches, has that feud with MJF where a lot of the promos were just constant shots at WWE, and that's where I kind of started to go, yeah. And even in my original episode where I talked about CM Punk returning, off the top of my head, it was either episode 13 or 14, it's titled Ice Cream Bars, because that was the whole thing. Everyone in the arena got ice cream bars, because it was a callback to one of CM Punk's infamous promos back in WWE. But I even said in that episode, like, I was so happy, but I didn't want to get too excited or jump the gun. And it's funny because going back to what I was trying to make before I ran it off, right? The guy said, oh, everyone's turning on him. No. Nearly everyone I've spoken to is in the same boat as you and I, or James Hellfire or Atticus Slane, where we were fucking diehard CM Punk fans. Like, you weren't even familiar with CM Punk because he was around just after you started watching and left just before you started watching again, right? So you knew the name, you'd seen him in highlights, you'd only really seen stuff of him with long hair, so for you it was weird because it's like, it's a completely different fucking person. But like, I've shown you his promos and some of his like matches and stuff, and you're like, this dude, like there's something there, he's got something there. And then he just comes back and somehow, I've said this to Big James, and I don't know if I mentioned it with you on the pod or not, I probably have, but it seems like he's somehow gotten more bitter from coming back from the business than he did from being away from it.
You know what his problem is? He reminds me of fucking Nathan Cleary, the footy player, and fucking Latrell Mitchell. They know they're fucking good, but they're so up themselves.
Sitting here bringing up Nathan Cleary after that fucking football game last night.
But I mean, seriously though, like literally, they're up themselves and they know they're good, and that's the problem. And he's exactly the same. He's super egotistical, and because he's had shit happen to him, he's bitter as fuck. Like, that's his problem.
And what spurred all of that? Get out
of his own head.
You brought up the Mox promo, right? So I apologise for getting away from that too far, okay. But you know what I'm like. Yeah. But yeah, it went back to the Hangman promo, right? And then that brings us to the Mox promo, as you said, right?
Yeah.
6 days. Wait.
Yeah, 5 or 6 days before, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think 4 days before. I don't know. Whatever. It's the Dynamite before all that. And Mox comes out. And the fans are booing him because they're in Chicago. It's CM Punk's turf. That's okay. Mox doesn't give a fuck if you cheer or you boo, as long as you react. And that's one thing that I love as a professional, because I'm like, you know what? That dude's going to do his thing. He don't give a fuck. It's so good. And he comes out, and in almost, again, was it a shoot? Was it a work? It was a work shoot, but you know there was some truth behind it. I'm sorry CM Punk didn't live up to your expectations. I'm sorry CM Punk didn't make as big of an impact as CM Punk thought that CM Punk would. He didn't say it in those exact words, but I am emphasizing that because that's what it is. CM Punk stayed away for 7 years and just all tried to hijack WWE shows and act like fuckwits, even though he was the one that walked out. And at the end of the day, I respected that. Like, he had reasons, and I'm like, look, they fucked him over. But he also didn't help his situation, right? Yeah. He got to work with The Undertaker. He is one of The Undertaker's victims of the streak. That is a huge deal. If you, as a wrestler, don't understand how big of a deal are, then fuck you to the moon, as Isaac Butterfield would say. Because, hey, look, maybe I'm biased. I'm a fanboy. I think The Undertaker is the greatest wrestler. Well, not the greatest wrestler, but the greatest superstar of all time. You have that honor. More people... Now, the casuals tuned in because they wanted to see John Cena versus The Rock Part 2, which was once in a lifetime, and then they had a rematch literally the year after. But it brought all the casual fans in. It was in New York, New Jersey. The one fucking match that everyone talked about coming out of that WrestleMania and going into the WrestleMania anyway. Understand, The Rock sold tickets, but for the hardcore wrestling fans, Undertaker and CM Punk. And all the wrestling fanboys were like, oh my God, either he gets to have a WrestleMania moment with Taker, which is good enough in its own right, or there might be that slight chance that he breaks the streak, which would be enormous. But anyway, he goes on, he loses to Taker, and I should have been in the main event with Rock. You motherfucker, The Rock was a part-time wrestler. The Rock wrestled you at the Royal Rumble. The Rock wrestled you again at the Elimination Chamber. How many other people on that roster? They teased and teased and teased The Rock versus Daniel Bryan for how many months? And did it happen? No.
And you know
you got him twice.
You know what pisses me off about that too? You ungrateful little fuck. That's all I can say. You fucking got to wrestle Undertaker. How many
in one of Taker's last actual good matches. Like, I love Taker, but those last couple of years, and it wasn't his fault. He just had injury after injury, and he was committed. He wanted to keep going. I respect that, but
the fucking locker room leader, and you fucking got to verse him. Do you know how many of the younger kids the fucking are coming up now, wishing they could fucking have that chance?
And that's where this, not even from a fan perspective, and I've just you've had no choice but to be dragged into this world, like. Look, I'm a fucking...
I was already semi-in it as a child. I mean,
like
that shit.
The inside, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm the tiniest little fucking footnote. This business ain't going to remember who the fuck I am when I die. That's fine. I can live with that because I know that I've got a chance to at least live my dream and fucking do my thing and whatever. I don't need WrestleMania and yada, yada, yada. I'm past, those dreams and goals, whatever, right? But being in the business and knowing what it's like to even just be in any locker room, let alone imagining being in the biggest locker room in the fucking planet with damn near God himself, whether it's behind the curtain or in front of the fans doing the whole thing, and you want to sit there and bitch and moan that you deserve more and you should have deserved this, and then you're like, oh, I don't want to wrestle Triple H, so I'm going to walk out. Daniel Bryan wrestles with Triple H, beats Triple H, goes on to the main event and wins as well. In the same night, that could have been CM Punk.
What more could you really get given in that fucking career, though? It's like fucking Kevin Owens at the moment. He's like, where the fuck do I go now? I've versed Stone Cold.
KO literally went on record and he said nothing he does will top that moment for him on a personal level. But he's going to keep doing it because he's fucking good at it and it feeds his family.
Exactly. And you know what? He's got that fucking humbleness to him, and I fucking love him. And that's what I think fucking CM Punk should take a bit of a, page out of his book from.
KO's response to that whole CM Punk thing, because, again, this is where maybe, friendships and stuff, it's kind of biased, but obviously KO, to an extent, is going to take the Bucks side, right? But KO's response to all of that, CM Punk fucking going on just his massive tirade, and we're jumping all over the place, but if you listen to this, you've probably heard all of it in order and out of order, and I've seen so many TikTok videos and stuff. So for AEW, it's like Eric Bischoff had a book that came out in like 06, 07, and his title of that was Controversy Creates Crash, because he was from WCW, and look at all the shit that happened there, specifically behind the scenes, let alone what did trickle on screen. But Eric Bischoff even said, right, he hopes it's a work because of the same thing I said, right? Overshadows MJF, overshadows basically Moxley, everyone. Yeah. Basically, the whole fucking pay-per-view is like overshadowed. And then, if it is a shoot, it's more dysfunctional than WCW was in its last days. And that says a lot, right?
Yeah, but you know what's funny? Is now who they've got in charge to try and do it. Tony fucking Schiavone.
Tony Schiavone, allegedly, according to all the dirt sheets, is now Tony Khan's right-hand man. And if that is true...
That's why.
He's
trying to sort shit out. He's trying to clean up the fucking mess.
I still feel, from what the details that have been leaked, dare I say, because, again, there is like a 0.001% chance that this ends up being a massive work and egg on our face, but it's not going to be. Like,
but I doubt it. It's going to be a fucking shoot.
Christopher Daniels gets suspended as, and he's meant to be the talent relations guy. He was just trying to break up the fight, but because he was there, Tony's going, you're suspended. And I both understand that and think it's shit, but it is what it is. I'm sure Daniels gets it. Put Jim Ross in that position, right? Everyone says he's out of touch with his commentary, and look, he has lost a step, but he's still good. But just don't maybe bring him in for special matches.
He is getting older.
But take JR off commentary, except for like the big matches. Make those big matches mean even more because Jim Ross is there. But have Jim Ross, like, I'm not saying take Daniels, job away, but when he comes back, Jim Ross and Christopher Daniels could work together. That'd be an amazing fucking team for talent. But I completely lost where I was going because there was like 3 or 4 different points being made. But Kevin Owens tweets out that's what it was. I went on that rant. Sorry guys, ADHD from both of us, but CM Punk goes on that massive rant, and Kevin Owens' response, allegedly, there was no context, there was no catch him. It's completely open for interpretation, so it could have been complete coincidence, wink wink. But Kevin Owens' response, apparently, to all of this, I'm just going to say it was his response, because it was literally after the press conference, after the fight, KO sent out a tweet. No caption, no nothing. It was a picture of him at WrestleMania, standing in the ring in front of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh, man.
Now, if that ain't fucking savage... I don't know what is. It's just kind of like, hey, Punk.
I got the match you wanted, cunt. You know why? Because I'm fucking humble, brother.
Because he didn't bitch and moan. Like, I'm sure Kevin Owens has had his gripes, and I'm sure he's talked to Triple H or Vince McMahon or whatever, right? But just, I don't know. I'm honestly, there is a part of me that is genuinely fucking heartbroken. Yeah. And I know that for a grown man to say that, but like CM Punk, he wasn't one of my big heroes, but he has been someone that I have looked up to quite a lot. Like I've got the T-shirt, I've got I don't know how many fucking CM Punk action figures in one of these boxes laying around. I've got the fucking Funko Pop, which, as I said, I'm genuinely considering selling that now because it's just If it is a shoot, then as I said, I'll take a page. Take a page out of something that he literally said about the Young Bucks in the fucking promo, right? He said, you've done this, blah, 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 and for that I say, fuck you. And he's like, and if I am wrong about that, I apologize. He was trying to save face, but he was also just being bitter. But
if it's a work, it's a stupid place to put it because of, it's foreshadowing MGF's return. But at the same time, it's like, they've done a fucking good job because I am fucking working. Yeah,
this is one of those things where when Punk does return, because apparently, now Punk wasn't suspended like everyone else was. However, on the Dynamite intro, both Punk and all the members of the Elite, except for Adam Page, because he wasn't involved in the actual scuffle, despite the fact that CM Punk called him out. He wasn't involved. Apparently he wasn't even in the building. He was already like halfway fucking home or to the hotel or whatever because the show was over. But Kenny, the Bucks, all that, they were all taken out of the intro, stripped completely of the titles. None of that interim fucking bullshit. Oh, that grinds my gears. It's not needed. It's wrestling. If you have a plan, fair enough, but shit happens. Just vacate the titles. And in this case, he's not in choice because the Elite have been suspended. Death Triangle are now the new Trios champions. Puck being the All-Atlantic champion, which is still a funny name when you think about all the oceans. And
you know why I'm thinking they went that route? Because they couldn't have the North American.
Well, I think that's basically what it is. It's like a TV title, North
it.
American, but look at the flags and stuff that are on it. It doesn't work out geographically with the name. But anyway, that aside, Puck, because of that, being the All-Atlantic champion and now 1/3 of the Trios champions, the first ever double champion in AEW. So kudos to him. That's awesome. That's something that whether AEW dies because of this, which honestly I hope they don't. I don't think they will. But or whether they last another fucking 50 odd years, that's going to be in the record books that Puck was the first ever double champion. So that's awesome. Congrats to him. And they're having another tournament to crown the AEW World Champion. I reckon that I personally feel like the bracket's going to come down to Mox and Danielson just because they're a part of the same group. And Mox himself, again, in yet another promo, which you could tell was very much a work shoot. There was a lot of truth in that. He was meant to go on vacation, but now he's here because the boss called him and he's going to do the right thing. And as a performer, as an employee, he's going to throw that shit on his fucking back. Which is something that Punk has always talked about and never did. And I feel like, in a way, I don't think I actually made this exact statement because we kept jolting in so many different directions. But I think the issue, as I did say before, it seems like he's gotten more bitter coming back than when he stayed away.
Yeah.
And I think the reason for that is, and it's similar to what Moxley said in his promo, right? I think he thought he was going to have a bigger impact than he did. He was going to have more business. Yeah, he drew their biggest rating on his actual return on just a rumor, which that in itself, that is awesome. But it kind of just stayed in that direction and then kind of just kept dipping, but it never went above that. So I think Punk, and to quote Moxley from that promo on Dynamite before the All Out pay-per-view even happened, fragile ego, fragile body, weak mind, weak spirit.
Yeah, well, you know what he's given me? He's given me spoilt child vibes.
110%.
Yes, he's given me spoilt child vibes. Like only child and he's spoilt vibes. That's literally what he's giving me right now.
But as I was saying before I started talking about the titles, again, I lost my point, but I still made another point that I was trying to make fucking half an hour ago now, it seems. But in the intro packages, I was saying, Elite, CM Punk, completely taken out. On Rampage, which aired today as we record this, they were showing a couple of highlight packages. The Elite were still shown in the highlight packages.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely nothing was shown with CM Punk. Everything they mentioned about MJF returning, they chopped around, so CM Punk wasn't in the frame. Obviously, MJF was on the stage anyway.
See, if it was a work, you think he'd still be in there. Like, chopping him out and stuff like that when he was one of their biggest draws.
And he was the champ at the time, but...
Yeah.
But basically, apparently, the funny thing is, though, he was not suspended, and the reason for that is he's apparently torn his pec, and if you watch the match with Mox, he does a suicide dive, and he does really land awkwardly, so it might be legit, but apparently what really fucked it was the melee where he was throwing punches, and people were throwing chairs, and Ace Steel apparently bit Kenny Omega.
The fuck?
Well, I just want to know, I said this to so many people, and I'm not trying to say this as a macho man, because I only fight if I fucking have to, right? I'm a lover, not a fighter, the old expression, but what happened to the days where wrestlers could fight? Could you imagine, Macho Man Randy Savage biting a dude, or Haku biting a dude? I mean, you probably could picture Haku biting a dude, seeing as how he almost ripped out a guy's eyeball, allegedly, but Jericho and so many others have told the same story that I'm convinced that it's true, but all the bar fights that superstar Billy Graham and guys like that used to get in back in the day, even JBL, like, people say he's a dick behind the scenes, but you know that if him and Ron Simmons get in a fight in a bar, they're throwing haymakers, they're throwing headbutts, they're not going to pull someone's hair and bite them. Like, what the fuck?
You know the only wrestler that I could imagine biting someone? Darren the fucking Snake.
What?
His name's Darren, isn't it? The Snake?
Oh, Damien the Snake.
Damien
Yeah,
the
Jake
Snake.
the Snake's python.
Yes, I thought his name was Darren.
Or his older brother Lucius.
That's so Aussie of me.
Darren!
Darren!
You said Darren and all. I thought it was Darren Lockyer because the way you said it.
No, I thought
actually,
it was Darren
you know
the
a
Snake.
wrestler who...
Damien, that's it.
Well, as I said, this is all like rumor and innuendo, as Conrad Thompson would say on his however many fucking podcasts he hosts now.
20 million.
But, you know, it's all alleged, this melee, right? I know one wrestler that would bite someone. Velveteen Dream.
Oh, hey-o.
Fuck you to the moon, you slimy, creepy motherfucker.
Oh, fuck him.
Fuck, he went downhill, didn't he?
I always had a creepy vibe on him. I tell you what.
Yeah. Snorted coke in front of an officer because they told him to get rid of it. But yeah, he bit a dude at the gym because the dude at the gym told him to clean up the stuff properly or put it back properly, which that's fine. And like,
just do it.
He bit the dude. Like, what?
What the fuck?
There's
some kind of fucking coke then too, or what?
Where does AEW go from here? Because I'll be honest, right? Like I still didn't watch this week's Dynamite, but I did still watch, you know, the highlights, which I usually do anyway, like what appeals to me. I watched Mox's promo. The first thing that sticks out to me, right, is Tony Khan addresses the title situation in the first literal minute of the show, right? You have him come on screen and say that he's doing this, he's doing that. You can tell that he's quite clearly reading from a teleprompter so that he doesn't say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Which, one, screams bullshit because, such a heartfelt apology reading from a script, but at the same time, if it really was a work, would he, like, it feels like he's trying to, like, what's the word? Like, micromanage? Yeah. Like, he wanted to make sure that every single thing he said was to the fucking point.
Yeah.
And think about when he come out, I now own Ring of Honor. Feel the power of the Ultimate Warrior. He was fucking coked out of his head, or might have just been 5 Hour Energy and he's had like a fucking gallon of it. But he still seemed a little off, but he was trying so hard to be like, hi, this is Tony Khan, blah, 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 blah. On with the show, basically like nothing happened right now. If it was a work, you'd want to obviously play up on that more. Because, like, long-term storytelling is a thing, but in 8 months when CM Punk comes back, if he comes back, it's going to be a big deal that he's back, but I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal. Yeah. And at the same time, they've still... MJF come out, he was doing the cheap babyface thing, he was wearing their local sports team jersey, and then Moxley comes out and he takes the jersey off and goes back to being heel MJF, which to me still felt really awkward. It felt like an awkward pivot, like he was meant to be a face and they kind of had to change it with Punk being out. But I don't know, like, I don't even know if we've really made a point. As per usual, we've just been ranting, but I just fucking, we sat here and we were meant to be doing an episode about, hey, yeah, we had this fucking crazy train ride and I was stranded in Sydney and I was freaking the fuck out and Attica Sane slaved our ass, and then we went and saw a movie which made it kind of funnier because it was like, well, it was already the train ride from Hell Part 2 and now we're talking about this movie to, oh, hey, do you want to record tomorrow? Yeah, oh, okay, got something on. Oh, shit, I've gotten called into work, like they've changed my hours, whatever. And then earlier this week, it's just, I was having a bad eye day, so I slept pretty much that entire day. I think that was the day that I slept until almost 6 p.m. and I woke up. And just fucking everywhere on all my social media. Here's Sam Punk, fuck Colt Cabana, fuck this, fuck that. And I'm like, well, the odds of Colt and CM Punk working even just one match, let alone a promo, are
Colt's pulled himself back quite a lot, so he's not really wrestling that much.
The whole rumor was CM Punk tried to get Colt fired, the Young Bucks saved him, yada, yada, yada. Rumors aside, I don't know if that was necessarily the case. I think maybe Tony Khan, because he is a bit of a simp for CM Punk, probably by proxy pushed Colt aside without... I don't think CM Punk actively... Like, as much as Punk's pissed me off, I don't think he actively went, fire that motherfucker, because I don't think that'd even be on his radar, to be honest.
He's too much on his own radar.
That's kind of like, he's too much in his own fucking head to give... His head too far up his own ass to care, seemingly, but the rumour is, the Young Bucks saved him, so it was like, okay, well, we'll move you over to Ring of Honor whenever we do decide to do those shows, and look, I'm still going to support Ring of Honor and AEW and all the in-between, but I don't get it. Like...
yeah, I just don't get it.
But yeah, I think, as I said, the chances of Colt Cabana and CM Punk even having one match, let alone a whole feud out of this, they're slim to none, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, that in itself was the red flag for me.
See, what I'm wondering too is what Bryan Danielson thinks of all this, because he's actually really fucking close.
Well, Bryan Danielson and Colt. They all
on
came up on the
together.
Indies. It was all of them though. Like, it was guys like Christopher Daniels and CM Punk and Chris Hero and yada yada yada. I know Christopher Daniels was more with AJ and Samoa Joe, but CM Punk and Samoa Joe had a great rivalry in Ring of Honor. CM Punk and AJ had a fantastic Pure Rules match. And whatever fucking year that was back in the day, that was the first ever Pure Rules match I ever saw, and I fucking lost my fucking mind because it was just the coolest shit ever. Yeah. But like, Brody Lee and Punk and, Cesaro and all these guys, although they might not have all been there at the same time, they all still came through, and Mox as well, they all still came through the same territories and stuff like that, and they all knew of each other. But Punk and, Punk, Chris Hero, Colt specifically, they were all like the best of friends, like Punk and Hero, Punk and Colt. But as you say, Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, they knew each other very well. They might not be like the best of friends, but the respect level as a competitor is obviously there. So, but what does Bryan think of that? Just looking from a side, like,
yeah, because he's really close still with Colt.
But yeah, with the
So, and why I wonder that too is when this is just going back to when you were saying, what do you think the future of AEW looks like? What if they were to lose Bryan Danielson and he goes back now Triple H is in charge? Because even though CM Punk was a draw, he was a fucking draw too. They can deny it till the cows come home, but he was a fucking draw as well.
It's one of those things where Punk, obviously, he's going to get the casuals in more because he can talk, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of the AEW fans, for the most part, they're never going to do WWE numbers. That's no slight on them. It's just what it is because it's a different presentation. That is fine. There is nothing wrong with that at all.
You look at them and they are different fucking products.
But Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson, I should say, sorry, he's in AEW now, Bryan Danielson, he's only going to get them so far. And I think he's aware of that. He just wants to wrestle everyone and have great matches. That's his thing, right? But I'm sure if they wanted him to carry the company on his back, he'd try. But he's just come back from an injury as well. Like, the whole thing was he was out of WWE for however many years and then got cleared and he was just out with a couple of concussions. So he might not have much long left as it is. But as you say, he could go back to WWE. You never know.
Yeah. I reckon he was still a draw because they were fucking. You should have seen the crowd.
Yes.
They're fucking doing the yes chants and shit. And he's like, please don't.
Yeah,
please don't.
And that's one of those things where because of the presentation, him as Daniel Bryan in WWE is going to be a bigger draw than him as Bryan Danielson in AEW. That's just a fact. That's just how the business goes, unfortunately. But what about what happens if the Bucks and Kenny do come back and they're like, CM Punk's still here? Because I don't even know if I ended up making that point because we're just all over the place. But CM Punk, the funny thing is, right, the Elite, they're all suspended.
Yeah.
CM Punk wasn't suspended because he suffered an injury that's going to keep him out for 8 months and yada, yada, yada. But then they showed the Elite in highlight. Despite the fact that all of them have been taken out of the intro itself, the Elite was shown in highlights. Punk wasn't shown or mentioned at all.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, is he just going to leave? Like, is he just decided after a year back he's done and he's just going to leave the business again? Or...
I don't think his ego would allow that. Like, me looking at it, it's like, I don't know if his ego would allow him to just go out quietly like that. He's definitely not done. Like, he's got something to fucking say.
But I don't know. We've kind of tripped over our words, and I definitely have repeated a couple of points over and over again, but I said this. I posted that TikTok video about the Simpsons, the Aurora Borealis, just because I was amusing myself. But I said in the caption for that I truly believe. So I was talking to Shane, and he originally said, or Atticus Lane, whatever you want to call him. He originally said like 85% work, 15% shoot. I said, okay, maybe 80% shoot, 20% work. Like there's a little bit more work in it as it progressed, because I think he was kind of. I don't know if he was regretting what he said as he was going along, and then just kind of went, well, fuck it, like I'll just go along with it. But he kind of he started to wind down a little bit, and then it was just like, oh well, blah blah blah.
Like I know he's a bit of an egotistical kind of dude, but he kind of looked half concussed too. So I don't think
he looked
fully believing in what he was saying.
Well, this is what I said. I was like,
fucked.
Tony Khan snorted fucking God knows how much coke or downed, a couple of gallons of 5 hour energy. Take your pick. Oh, I'm not going to sit here and say that he definitely does or doesn't partake, because I don't want to be sued for slander by someone that, knowing my luck, would fucking end up hearing this and whatever. But he's there, he's all up. And then CM Punk, who's Mr. Straight Edge, was acting like a fucking crackhead.
Yeah.
Straight up. That's the only way I can describe it.
Yeah.
CM Punk had crackhead energy.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know if it's like you've seen me after matches, right? Like the adrenaline's pumping, like he's fucking all jittering and stuff. So that could be a part of it. And if he's injured, maybe like the adrenaline's kind of starting to kick in, and he's whatever. But I just I don't know.
Going back to like the future of how AEW looks too, do you reckon people are going to ask for their releases in their contract, like? They're wanting to
Something
be released.
I want to skim over real quick. I don't want to harp on it because there's not many details. Apparently, and it hasn't been confirmed nor denied from... Well, I think Fightful did, and they're usually a pretty decent source, but AEW hasn't really said anything publicly about it, and maybe that's for the better given that it's meant to be like a mental health thing. But after All Out, and after I finish this point, I'll let you make your point because I'll plug my laptop in while you're talking, but... After All Out, well, not after All Out, after his match at All Out, it wasn't shown on camera. So I feel like, again, it was just meant to be just for the live crowd, but of course people were recording and put it out there. Malachi Black hugged Brody and Buddy, and then he turned around and he kind of bowed and blew a kiss to the crowd. And now for the couple of weeks leading into AEW, there had been rumors that he'd wanted his release and had been denied and da-da-da-da, and now all of a sudden it's come out that he has been granted his release, but it's a conditional release. He can't go back to WWE. So my question is, how long does that last? Is it like a non-compete thing, or is it like 90 days, or is it just, no, he can never go back to wrestling ever again unless it's AEW.
I feel like they can't do that.
Like,
that's fucked.
No, but that's what I'm saying though. Like, they're saying it's a conditional release. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Does that mean he just...
I think it's probably has non-compete.
Does that mean it's a non-compete with a timer, or he just has to wait for AEW to die before he can go to WWE? Like,
probably not far off dying. No, just kidding.
I honestly I don't know, but what do you think of that whole Aleister Black situation? Do you think, or I should say Malachi Black in AEW? I think I just called him Did I call him Aleister Black every time just then?
No, it's not that I think you said Malachi Black.
Whatever, he's still Tommy fucking N to me. Oh, that'd be a fucking plot twist if Tommy N came back to the Indies. Yes. Oh, conditional, Malachi Black or Aleister Black can't wrestle? Okay, here comes Tommy N. But like, do you see him, because apparently it is, as I said, there's like some mental health things. There was also rumors he thought he wasn't being used right, which, again, if that's true, that seems weird, because he was being treated better in AEW than he was in WWE, at least within the main roster. Of course, NXT is a different story, and you talk about NXT, Papa H is in charge now. So, so like, what do you, Mrs. Crossfire, where do you see this going?
So, I guess, like, maybe he's going to go back to WWE if they allow it, which I feel they should after, like, I feel like it's a non-compete clause, but they're just trying to say it in a fancier way. That I think it's just going to be, like, a non-compete where it's, like, he just can't go back for, like, so many days or whatever. Because I just feel like one of the reasons that Aleister left, and so did Zelina, was they weren't getting along with Vince and the whole talent crew at WWE. It felt like they're...
Yeah, well, there'd been a lot of rumours that neither of them were getting along per se, and then all of a sudden they got lumped in with the old budget cuts, brother.
Yeah, and then you look at it and it's like, oh, okay. And then Zelina come back and I was like, all right. And now Vince is gone. So it just seems like the morale's getting better at WWE, but it's going to shit at AEW. So it's like all these people, this is the point I was getting to before, but it feels like all these people are probably going to leave and follow suit and go back to WWE or something like that. Like, I don't want that to be the case where, oh, they're taking everyone back and they're doing that thing kind of thing. But at the same time, you can see where the morale's getting boosted in WWE, but it's going downhill in AEW, and is that going to make a lot of people want to quit?
I'm really hoping that, because
ask for their release.
What AEW did, I don't know if I should say did wrong, because I don't have my own company. I'm not a businessman, per se officially, but they just, they to their credit, like I'll still defend them. Everyone said that they signed. Everyone gets released by WWE and goes to AEW. No, they still, if you look at the grand scheme of thing of everyone that was released, it is still a fairly small percentage of the people that they did
they picked and
hire,
choose,
but
sure.
There was still a fair big group to an extent, which just shows you how many people were released. But I mean, it's a fucking massive company. Like, they literally have thousands of employees. Like, there's probably a couple of hundred wrestlers, let alone all the hundreds, if not thousands, of backstage people and people that work at the actual headquarters and everything between. AEW's not far off. They've got a couple of hundred, employees as well on top of wrestlers and stuff now as well. But I think they hired all these WWE guys in such a short amount of time that it was just like, we've made jokes, right? There's the Buzz and Woody meme where Tony Khan's like, I don't want to play with you anymore. I do worry.
Yeah.
I do worry that Triple H is going to do that same thing with all the people that he's bringing back. I'm hoping not, because there is more hours of television and they can kind of maneuver them. Like, even in Ricochet, he worked Worlds Collide against Carmelo, fantastic match.
Yeah.
But he even did, like, the NXT after that, same as Nikki ASH and Doudrop. So, you can kind of swap and change between brands. He's kind of, like, people are being more exclusive to Raw and SmackDown again than before. There's still people going on each brand, but slowly seems to be pulling it back in place, which is, I think he's doing it strategically so that it's all in place in time for Survivor Series.
Yeah.
Seemingly, I fucking hope so. I don't want another, this is my brand, even though I've been here for 2 weeks. But
again, it's not like that I just love Triple H or anything, but it's like
he seems to have a better vision.
Yeah, better vision, and the professionalism's there, where I feel like Tony Khan's losing that.
This is what fucked me off, right? Because we only skimmed through kind of Swerve in our glory and Tony Storm's press conference, because they were pretty like, nothing against them, but it was a very basic thing. Like, they were talking about the event and the match and stuff like that, and they were answering questions that had actually been asked a few times now, right? But then you watch the one with Jericho. Jericho kind of took a shot at Punk as well about people being marks on themselves, which, how much of a mark for yourself do you have to be called out by Chris Jericho? Because I love Chris Jericho, but we all know he has an ego, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a time and place kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Jericho literally tells Khan, hey, shit went down. Goes on this, speech about how, the locker room etiquette and this and this and this. And then at the end, Tony Khan just fucking starts shooting on Triple H. And they've done it plenty of times, right? They're always taking shots. We haven't watched it yet, but apparently WWE kind of took a shot at AEW this week with the whole Adam Pearce, Ronda Rousey situation, because they're like, he shouldn't have aired, Adam Pearce shouldn't have aired Ronda's dirty laundry publicly. We're going to deal with this in the right way, and we're going to do it internally. It's like, I don't know if that was a direct shot, because they were kind of doing that like storyline. They were kind of doing that storyline like the last couple of weeks. So like last week, Adam Pearce got mad at Ronda and kind of flexed his power in kayfabe a little bit. So realistically, like, it's still, they didn't really take a shot directly, but the wording of it was a bit, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
But like, I kind of lost my point there, but like, that's right. Tony Khan, he's always done it, but after all the CM Punk stuff, he's sitting there and he's talking about how last year, Labor Day weekend, they were the only show on that weekend, and they were the third show, and WWE, like, purposely did that. It's like, it was literally the 30th anniversary of SummerSlam in the UK. It just fell on that same weekend. Like, sorry that that's when history happened. And then Worlds Collide. Yes, that was before AEW, but he still put that Triple H, they still put it on earlier in the afternoon, one, so it wouldn't clash, because let's face it, All Out would have outdrawn NXT. That's fine, there's nothing to admit that. But then, because Triple H goes, oh, they beat our developmental, congratulations to them. They literally did. NXT, even though Triple H went on record and people have been using all these screenshots about, oh, it's revisionist history. It's not. Triple H said that in his mind, NXT was now a third brand. And it was. It had gotten to that point where it was touring and it was a draw. But from a contractual standpoint, they were still getting paid subsequently less than what everyone on Raw and SmackDown, aka the main roster, was getting. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that comment. And besides, it's just an offshoot comment. Like, it kind of backhanded, but he was a businessman. He was like, look, they beat our developmental. If they want to wave that around like a fucking flag of victory, then fucking hey, more power to him. He was kind of laughing at how ridiculous it was. But then Tony Khan goes on about how I've got more fucking money and this isn't a game to me, which was a double innuendo because he's talking about the business, but also Triple H is the game. And he's like, I'm fucking sick of this shit. And that's how he ends the fucking, the scrum, right?
When AEW first started, I really liked Tony Khan. He seemed like he was humble. He was a humble guy. But now he seems like he's a spoiled kid. Just like I've gone back to what I was saying about bloody
I think
CM
that's why
Punk.
him and Punk are so much alike and they get along so well.
He's a bit of a spoiled kid. He seems like he's a spoiled kid. He's got a lot of money and he's in a candy store and he's just doing all this shit, right? He just seems like he's being really childish and immature about it all. Like, he's not looking at it from a professional standpoint. He's gone a bit childish with it all.
It sucks because he literally was telling him and Jericho at that same press conference or media scrum. That's what they call it, media scrum. It's a press conference, but it's not really a press conference because press conferences are meant to still be kayfabe for the most part, hence Roman Reigns in the UK telling the reporter to acknowledge him and then walking off when the dude acknowledged him. Beautiful fucking stuff. But this media scrum, it's real. It's, it's like a conference call basically, but for the fucking whole public.
Yeah.
They talked about how Tony Khan's father was there in his business suit in the ECW arena at Tony Khan's first event and Chris Jericho was on that card and this and that. And it's like, you can tell the dude's passionate.
Yeah.
But as you said, it's like, he's gone from being this fan, which I respect the fuck out of, and he tells you, this happened on this date, and it's like, that's awesome, and he's just kind of somehow just morphing into, and I've talked about this, and maybe shouldn't have joked, but I've joked about this with Atticus and Big James, that I almost feel like sooner than later we're going to have a Dark Side of the Ring episode about AEW, or at the very least Tony Khan. Like, we're going to get some fucking Herb Abrams type shit. Like, that's literally the direction I feel it's heading in.
It's like the power...
And it worries me. It worries me because I don't want to see anything bad happen to anyone.
It's like the power's gone to his head. And it's like he's become, from a fan, to like just this big power-hungry guy that just wants to be the biggest in the world. And like, there's nothing wrong with being ambitious, and you need that in the 100%. Wrestling.
You need, it's a cutthroat business. You need to be on top of your game to get ahead, so to speak. But
and you've got to have that passion too.
Yeah, but professionalism goes a long way, and I know that this podcast is far from professional and probably makes me sound super fucking hypocritical, but I don't go on this podcast and be like, well, I had a beef with this guy, and I had a beef with that guy, and then people can be like, oh, it's just a work. No, it's not. Because if I'm not working with it, or if people aren't involved,
you're just shitting
if Hangman Page isn't in the building, and it's not even Hangman Page that, confronts CM Punk when he was, the brunt of it, or even Colt Cabana, if Colt Cabana's not fucking in the arena and belting down CM Punk's door like, motherfucker, no, then,
Yeah. It's
and I guess you could probably look at it the other way and be like, well, they didn't go and do anything about it either, so maybe it is a work. But I said this, the point I was trying to make before when I proposed about the TikTok video where I said I think it's 80% shoot, 20% work. If this is a work, it is the biggest work in history of wrestling ever, right?
Yeah.
That might be overstating it, but I feel like in this day and age, with the internet and social media and just everything, I don't think, if by some miracle it is a work, I don't think there's ever been a bigger work. Like Chikara, a company that literally shut down just for a storyline payoff. They shut down for a full year just for a storyline payoff. And then when the documentary that I showed you on Amazon, that's fucking huge. Like, obviously it's not as well known, but for a whole company to shut down, then to like have this big reunion show or comeback show like a year later, and unfortunately they've shut down again now because the owner's a sex pest, so fuck that guy. But this is if it is a work, it's bigger than that. Like the biggest work ever. But I do think it's a shoot. I wholeheartedly believe it's a shoot, but I do think that they should still be smart and capitalize on it. But I also think it's silly, and it's, contradicting, but for them to overshadow MJF's return the way they did.
Yeah.
Because even the Mox promo with MJF, that was more about Mox just going off and telling his side of the story, right?
Yeah.
Or telling his side of the story, air quotes, on an audio podcast. But it was, he was very work shoot in that, but you could tell that everything he said, because the rant he went on, if you guys haven't seen Moxley's promo, I mean, go out and check out the one from the week before, just before All Out, because it's kind of
shadowing.
Even in a week, it's aged fucking crazily. But the one from this past week, when he was just talking about the passion of, it doesn't matter what the three letters are. If you're in charge, if you're wrestling for a company and you have the title and you're carrying that company, it's about the passion, the pride, the blah blah blah, the blood, sweat, tears. It's about, and he even said it's a time for him to become a legend. And I think truly. And, people may discover this because when you think legend, you think, like Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker. But from a work ethic kind of aspect, and what Moxley did do in the WWE and how far he's fought from the bottom of the barrel indies up to now. Like, he's still, when he was AEW World Champion, working like GCW and stuff and doing death matches on the side just because he's so fucking passionate and he can't help himself.
And you know what's funny? As I used to have a gripe for him, and now I'm actually starting to really like him.
Probably...
He's a fucking good worker.
I'm probably never going to,
good.
walk around rocking, like, a John Moxley t-shirt or, fangirling over him, but I'd still someone I'd like to meet from a respect standpoint.
Yeah.
And shake his hand and appreciate the fact that that dude has worked his ass off. He's so long, fought an alcohol addiction, which was probably born out of all the hard work. And now he was finally meant to get some fucking time off. Punk goes off the fucking rails. Who do they call?
Exactly.
Wow, thanks.
Exactly. You make my heart sing.
And just the promo was just, I believed every single word. And that's one thing that people would probably say, but you are a fan, because I would go out of my way to watch a John Moxley promo. Like, if he's in a match, I know it's probably going to be a good match. Same as, like, Gunther and Sheamus just got a 5-star match from their match at Clash of the Capitol just from beating the shit out of each other, which is awesome, good for them. But I've always been indifferent with Sheamus because it's very much like, okay, I know I'm going to get it, but I appreciate it, right?
Yeah.
But Moxley, my appreciation for him, although I'm still not going to, as I said, fanboy buy a t-shirt per se, I'm not going to have a John Moxley poster on my wall, right? Like, there was a stage where I 100% would have had a CM Punk poster on my wall. Like, you get what I'm trying to say there.
Yeah.
But my appreciation for him, I didn't think it was possible because it's always been up there, but it's gone even higher and higher. Like, just as a man, as a human being, like, the dude's a husband, he's a father, he's trying to do his thing.
He's beat addiction.
He's trying to support his family while also,
Awesome.
Like, don't get me wrong, like, I want to support my family, but I also know that if I can't, like, have my outlets, I'm going to be depressed as fucking nobody. Like, like, what kind of life is that if you're just going to work, coming home, right?
It's a rut.
Like, and he beat that. And I'm sure when Tony called him or whoever called him, I don't know who called him, I wasn't there, I wasn't a fly on the wall, but I'm sure when whoever called him, him and Renee probably just went, but he packed his bag. He booked his flight, he got in his car, I don't fucking know how he travelled. I wasn't there. But he showed up to Dynamite and he cut this promo and you believed every fucking word of what he said, and the reason for that is, it's the truth.
Yeah.
I think they should, if CM Punk does come back at the end of the 8 months, which I think he will.
Yeah, I think he will.
They've got to. They almost have to turn him heel. And as I said, maybe that's what Punk wanted. Maybe he called out Hangman for going into business for himself. Maybe this was all Punk. Maybe Punk went into business for himself and he was working all of this, including Tony, because he wanted his heel turn to happen faster. I don't know. But,
or he knew. He felt that he was injured.
But
and was
no,
like,
I truly feel like CM Punk, kind of what Moxley said in his promo, and I've been saying it for months now, I think he's gotten more bitter since coming back than he did staying away, because he realised that, one, he's lost a step. That's fine, right? It is what it is. But I think he thought he was going to do better business than he did.
Yeah, for sure.
And she's just gone nuts.
Yeah.
Definitely a situation to keep an eye on, though. But I think, did you have anything else you wanted to add before? Because we've both done it. Every time either of us go to make a point, we just kind of zigzag. Because we're like, it reminds us of this, and then it just da-da-da-da-da-da. But
passion, brother.
I love professional wrestling, and it shits me off when motherfuckers sit there and say that they love professional wrestling, and then everything they do disrespects the fucking business anyway.
I'm sorry, you love professional wrestling? Shit, I didn't know that.
But CM Punk sits there and he comes back, his first promo back. On this date, I left sports entertainment, and on this date, I came back to Shut the fuck up. Shut up. It is the same thing. You know it. I know it. Everyone else fucking knows it. And then you spend every promo going that, taking shots at Vince. Yeah, well, Vince is retired now. Maybe he's going to go back to WWE. Maybe that's who Triple H was tampering with. Maybe CM Punk's going to finally main event WrestleMania. No, he's not. I mean, if he does, there's still part of me that'll probably mark out, but I just...
Yeah.
It's a fucking crazy situation nonetheless, and I think that they need to capitalize on it, but then at the same time, I don't know. They should, but they shouldn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know. We've been talking for an hour and 40 now, and I don't know if either of us actually made a point, but shit went down. Shit went down. I'm genuinely, like, there's part of me that's genuinely heartbroken by CM Punk.
Yeah.
But I think I'll wrap it up if you've got nothing else to add.
Yeah, no, I think we've shooted the shit.
It was meant to be Train Ride from Hell, and then unfortunately got put on hold. I'm probably still going to call the episode Train Ride from Hell Part 2 just because I got nothing else to call it. But we got put on hold, and in a way, thank fuck it did, because the wrestling world just exploded.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, shoot, hit the fan.
Yeah.
Shoot, hit the fan. That's the name of it. Shoot, hit the fan.
I'm going to keep that in my back pocket for a future episode because that's great.
Shoot, hit the fan.
But the song of the week was Runaway From Myself by Citizen Soldier. The match of the week was Sabu versus Taz. Not even going to get that out. Sabu versus Taz at ECW Barely Legal 1997. I am the essential John L. Crossfire. With me, as always, is the lovely, beautiful, amazing Mrs. Crossfire.
Shaka-laka-laka.
Please check all the links below, especially for upcoming events. The event pages for both Southside Bash and Insane Rumble will be there. The ticket information is on those respective event pages. I've got all of my social medias, merch, my Amazon wish list, if you're really, really lovely, is in the link tree. And you guys have just been caught
in conversation.
Shaka-laka-laka.
Shaka-laka-laka.
Aurora Borealis. At this time of year.
See you guys.